We start with how President Obama can beat Mitt Romney. We're going to ask the question. Michael Steele is the former chairman of the Republican National Committee and now an MSNBC political analyst. And Mark Penn is a Democratic strategist and a former Hillary Clinton campaign strategist. Mark, Hillary's not running this time, I don't think. President Obama is running for re-election. He has to make the case for a second term. He has to probably, we're just going to propose this now, beat Mitt Romney, the way it looks right now. Romney's got some great numbers. Let me show you why we're proposing that. Just came in from the new NBC News and the Marist poll up in Iowa and in New Hampshire. In the Iowa caucuses, Mitt Romney leads among Republicans, but Herman Cain is right behind him. Ron Paul and Rick Perry are both well behind them. In the New Hampshire primary, Republicans overwhelmingly now go for Mitt Romney. More than 30 points behind him are both Herman Cain and Ron Paul, with Rick Perry down to fourth place up there. By the way, in head-to-head matchups, and that's what we're going to talk about right now, a possible head-to-head matchup, in fact, a probable one now, between President Obama and Mitt Romney. The president narrowly defeats Mitt Romney in Iowa by just 3 points, while Mitt Romney beats the president of New Hampshire by a pretty impressive 9 points, 49-40. So given all that, we're just proposing tonight it's time for the presidents, because I know the people in the White House, as you know, are thinking about this. How do they beat Mitt Romney?
Well, you know that they've got to occupy the center. The problem with Mitt Romney is that he is the most centrist possible Republican candidate, and the conservatives are fragmented. And so that means there are two things. Is Mitt Romney a conservative, or is he a centrist? I think the president's got to push him to the right. It's got to use Mitt Romney's primary answers to show that Romney, the old Romney, might have been in the center. The new Romney is to the right. The president is mainstream. Give him a chance. His policies will work.
So say he's not good on immigration. He's not good on abortion rights. He's not good on all the issues where the center tends to be more in the center. Put him over on the right.
Put him over the right so that he can't have access to the women voters, to the Latino voters, the kinds of voters that make up not just the Democratic base, but that go beyond the base into the center.
Michael Steele, former RNC chair, what happens if you see the Republicans the Democrats doing that, beginning to craft Mitt Romney as a right-winger, as basically a Rick Perry?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that there are a couple of dangers in there for the left in doing that. Number one is that, as 2010 showed us, that there are a lot more people who tend to hew more to the center-right of the spectrum politically and will support conservative candidates. And Romney, I think, can stake that ground out very comfortably, particularly after the nation sees him go through this primary process.
So you're saying that their strategy, if it becomes the strategy to jam him over on the right, isn't going to hurt him.
It's not going to hurt him that much. No, I think it's probably ultimately an okay place for him to be, as this cycle has shown itself over the last, 7, 8, 9 months.
Well, look, I think that also, is it a Massachusetts miracle or a Massachusetts mess that Romney created? You got to go after his record as governor. You've got to go after his record with big business, favoring big business, and you got to show on the social issues and the issues of values, he's to the right. It's a three-part strategy.
But the problem that the Obama team has is the last 3 years, and so.
Okay, let's stay off. I know that's another argument. That's the counter argument. But I want to ask you, what do they do if they make this kind of right? Suppose they make him Gordon Gekko. Suppose they say he's one of the pigs on Wall Street, one of the big investment bankers, one of the equity people who's been making tons of money through lobbying in Washington, keeping their taxes from having to be paid. Suppose he portrays him as a bad guy.
Bring it on, because then that clarifies and lays on the table what we've been saying, that the Obama administration and the Democrats have been nothing more than class warfare. So it etches it up, it puts it up to that level. If you're going to look at a Romney and you're going to look at his success and what he's done, he was not part of the debacle over the last 5 years or the last 2 years.
You think the public likes the people that brought us to financial hell in 2007, 2009?
So you're saying that's Romney? Are you equating Romney to that? Is that what you're saying? Because if that's what you're saying, bring it on, because everyone knows that's a lie.
They know he's a big business equity guy.
He's a business guy who says that corporations are people too. Who's not been in that business the last 3 years when all this was happening.
I'm trying to get you guys to do it.
The three parts, you've got to defeat the 3 parts, that he's moved to the right, that he's big business, that his record's not as good as it needed to be.
And I say, bring it on, and let's have fun doing that, and we'll win on that. We'll win on Obama's record against that argument.
You think the public is rooting for the people protesting in Wall Street or Wall Street?
I think the Republic right now is rooting for itself. And the protest.
Okay, well, I'm asking if they have to choose between a Romney type of Wall Street, a gecko type, and a regular person.
No. Well, first off, I don't accept your analogy that Romney and gecko are one and the same. So let's take that
So
aside.
greed's not good.
That has not. Romney has not.
You're saying that here? Will you say greed's not good?
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, Chris, what you're trying to do is disingenuous.
It's his strategy.
There's frustration throughout the country.
Right.
And
that's not reflected. If Romney Romney is beating Obama by 9 points in New Hampshire, clearly that's not reflected in the voters' attitude.
Yeah, but Romney's not well known. They don't really know much about Romney.
He's been running for president for 5 years.
But he's been keeping out of the controversy. I think the voters will take a look at Romney when he emerges. They will say, "Where's the record?" They'll say he's big business, and they'll say, "Hey, we liked you when you're to the center, but not when you move to the left."
Let me go through some stats here to firm up. In fact, I don't think it needs firming up. Every poll that's taken by every legitimate organization shows that the American people believe our tax system is totally unfair. They believe the rich should pay a higher percentage. The reason the Democrats are going after millionaires plus is because that's a very popular position to take. You say it's not popular. You say it's fine. You think the millionaires would win the argument against the regular people. That's what you're saying right here.
No, it's not what I'm saying. That's what you're saying.
He's a plutocrat.
Listen to my words.
I listen to your words. You were saying go over to the right and it's okay.
What I'm very clearly saying is if the strategy is as you set it up.
He set it up.
As you set it up, then that's a great argument for us to have. And I think the American people, as they've shown since 2010, are more inclined to not disabuse themselves or dismiss a Mitt Romney just because you, Chris, says that he's
I understand. It doesn't matter. You're basically saying, let me clarify definitions, because you shocked me, Michael, because you say it doesn't matter whether you run Rick Perry or Romney. As long as you're on the right, you're right where it belongs.
No, I'm not saying
that.
No, I did not say. I'm addressing your supposition that if Romney is running, that he's going to, as Mark said, we're going to force him to the right. And I'm saying that's not necessarily a bad place to be.
Force him. The Republican Party is moving
your
to the
hedging.
right.
You're saying not necessarily. A minute ago, you said it was fine.
It's the same thing. It's okay.
Okay, let me take a look at how the Republican field is shaking up right now. The reason we're talking about Romney right now, how it shifted. Remember the familiar sight of frontrunners Mitt Romney and Rick Perry sparring in the center of the pack in those fall debates beforehand? Well, tonight, Rick Perry has been upstaged. And perhaps one of the truest signs of his surge in the polls, Herman Cain will be standing there next to Mitt Romney in the center. And the people who organize these polls say they don't do it, these debates, but they do it. They put the front runners in the middle. And you can see the full seating arrangement in this chart. So you see Herman Cain there in the center, or I guess the left over there at the top, and Romney on the right at the top. Are they the two front runners of your party right now? Is Romney ahead, or is Cain really a threat to him?
I think Romney's ahead, and I think Cain is in that hunt, if you will. Perry's still a gamer. And then, of course, you still have someone like a Rick Santorum and a few others.
But Romney has positioned the fact, isn't Romney responsible for Herman Cain winning that straw vote in Florida? We're reading that you're laughing because he put him in, he got his people to push him, so he'd be his alternative.
Sure, well, maybe that's true. You have to ask those guys.
Is he using Herman Cain as a tackling dummy?
No, he doesn't see him as a tackling dummy. I think he sees him as someone who he can work with should this thing progress and he becomes the nominee. And you're looking at a Romney-Cain ticket.
Let me set up the guy for you. Here's yesterday Romney touting his business credentials and his service as Massachusetts governor, but he was also quick to say nice things about Herman Cain. Here he is setting up his favorite sparring partner when he clearly sees as not as a threat. Let's listen.
I was able to find ways to use my skills in a public sector setting, and that's probably something that if I were Herman, I'd say I wish I had that too, because you don't want to necessarily learn that for the first time as the President of the United States. He's a great guy. Vote for either one of us and you'll be happy.
Isn't that amazing language? He was able to use his skills in a public setting. In other words, he was governor of Massachusetts, and he's acting like, don't blame me for being in the government in a public setting.
But look, it's very clear what's happening. Cain surging, Perry collapsing. Cain's a conservative with some economic credentials. The conservative vote is being split. It's allowing Romney, because Chris Christie didn't get in, to run away with the moderate Republican vote. That's what's happening.
And to run away with what Chris Christie brings to the table as well with this announcement today, that grassroots activism, that sort of Tea Party effect. I think Romney right now is the tortoise that's looking at the finish line and feeling pretty good about it.
I still think there's a problem in your party, and I think it's been addressed by Mark, that in the end, the only way you win the Republican nomination is rhetorically going to the right. You can't win it as a centrist. And by the time he's done doing that, Obama has him in the corner.
Well, let me ask, how did Barack beat Hillary? Hillary was considered the conservative in that race. Yeah. So that, Obama spoke to the liberal wing of the party. Why do you act like this is somehow some new political revelation?
Because McCain was already
the newest thing in politics.
Because McCain was 8 years too late to the fight. That's why.
It's not just the social issues. It's the Republicans in Congress are at 12. And Romney is backing the Republican congressional position, which means he's going to be out of step on the social issues and then out of step on the economic issues.
But it's a whole different dynamic.
Let me finish this point.
No, go ahead.
You're overwhelming this guy with your verbosity.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you both then. Thank you, Michael Steele, and thank you, Mark Penn.